Hi everybody, how you doing? I'm Pabs, a Ricine VTuber and an artist, and today we're going to be working on art fight attacks. So, if you've never heard of art fight, I'm going to give this explanation a few times this year, probably every time that we do an art fight stream. So, you're going to hear it a lot. If you've never heard of art fight before, it is a yearly event where people upload their original characters to a website. I'm going to shut my window so I don't dox myself. Hang on. One moment. Fuck. Hang on. I got it. Just gotta get creative with the usage of my limbs. Okay. And snap. Okay. Yeah, no, so my window, so my microphone's wire is slightly shorter than my headphone's wire. My microphone is a fun little thing called an antline, which is a very fun, very lightweight little clip-on microphone that you can basically glue a magnet to your headphones, and a little magnetic clip will snap the microphone in place. And it's very convenient. I like it a lot. I've been using it for years. Actual literal years now, I think. And yeah, there's not much else to say about that. But that's why my microphone is wired and it has limitations to my reach. And because my microphone's wire is fairly short, my window, it was just enough out of range that I had to do some real do you guys remember QWOP? Does anyone remember QWOP? That stupid ass video game where you had to control each individual limb of a guy running? I feel like now if you try to release QWOP, you'd get crucified. I don't know. It feels like a very much spirit of the early 2000s. No, actually, you know what? I do think that if you release QWOP today, you might get it. You might just have the mandate of heaven. I don't know. A little bit of both. I think. I think you could reasonably release QWOP today, and it'll get really huge on Twitch for like 3 or 4 weeks. For maybe 2 weeks. You know, maybe not so generous of an amount of time. But yeah, you'd see basically every streamer on Twitch playing that game for maybe 2 weeks, up to a month, I would say. I think a month is the absolute hard limit that I would put on QWOP for its streamability half-life. And from then on, you would either just see it occasionally because somebody is like late to the trend, or because, you know, somebody's like, hey, remember QWOP? You know, kind of like how, you know, does everyone remember Getting Over with Bennett Foddy? That game always struck me as like particularly exact in its specific brand of cruelty. Like, I think that game was just, I don't know how to put it, like, most art is created to some extent with love, but I think this one was created with like a degree of hatred and contempt in its heart for its consumers. And it's like, whatever, right? That, you know, that doesn't really qualify it or disqualify it as art or anything. I just think it's abnormal. But yeah, I was basically doing some bizarre stretches to actually get my window to close, but now it's closed. And all I have to deal with the heat of the summer is a fan. And like, it's actual summer now. I don't know how to put it. Like, it is both extremely affirming as somebody who is like a summer guy. Like, I've always been a summer guy, right? I've never once resented the summer. I'm starting to have second thoughts. I haven't switched up on summer, I don't think. Not exactly. I still love it for its vibe, its kind of the kind of sanguine temperance it brings out in lots of people. I feel like it's just very difficult to start shit in the summertime, both in a positive way and a negative way. Like, I feel like I'm not worried that like, I have this thing where whenever I'm walking outside, I'm worried that I'll accidentally offend someone and they'll like try to start something with me. I feel like in the summertime that's just null and void, because nobody is starting anything in this heat, right? Nobody is starting anything in temperatures that are above 25 degrees. Also, the character we're drawing right now is by my good buddy Ryan, called Himona, and she just seems like a lovely person. Was actually thinking of maybe shifting the hair down just a tiny bit. Like, especially this top part. Because I think that, yeah, this just strikes me as more reason. Hang on, maybe even like, hang on. Yeah, maybe just a little bit angled this way. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's much more reasonable in terms of height, given where how her head is currently sitting. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something very life affirming about the summertime. I think it is inevitably kind of a melancholy season, if only because of the fact that it's also like officially halfway through the year. I think unless you've been kind of grinding like crazy, it's always going to be that time of the year where you're like, oh, fuck, it's already June and I haven't actually done anything. I've actually done quite a lot this year. Just nothing that I feel like... Just nothing that would make meaningful progress for stream. Like, I have been working my ass off this year, and it has paid some dividends. But, no, it's not like... I don't know. I'd like to get better at art. I wish there was like a time in June. Next year, June 2027. God, it's gonna be 2027 next year. June 2027 next year. The goal is 1, survive in case there are any more heat waves, and 2, have something nice to say about my art that I haven't been able to say before. I think that's gonna be the goal. I think just being able to gain a new strength in my art that I didn't have right now, I think that'll be huge for me. I think that's going to be like a real, like Maslow hierarchy of needs, pretty high up there in terms of what I can do for myself to feel like I have done something meaningful with my time. Because I do think that at this point, art is pretty much the only thing that's gonna like be with me until like I reasonably cannot do it. Like drawing is the one thing that I've just been able to hang on to no matter how bad it got. So I think like priority number 1 is being able to ensure that I can draw for as long as possible in terms of just like years and in terms of my lifespan, and 2, being able to draw as nicely as possible. I think those are the 2 main things. Everything else can kind of just either take a backseat or isn't really particularly relevant. Okay. Oh, yeah. I was wondering what this line here meant. I was like, is that her chest? No, it's from where the cutout in the spandex would be. Is this spandex? I feel like it is, probably, but I know that she's meant to be an MMA fighter, but I don't know much about the rash guards they wear. Like, I know most gis are just 100% cotton, and that goes for a lot of the different martial arts uniforms in, I would say, roughly... No, actually, it's not even a significant percentage. I imagine that the all cotton uniform is mostly for judo, karate, other Japanese sports that are offshoots or variants of those, like jujitsu, and also probably taekwondo. Okay, and this is gonna go like... Okay, this line needs to change a little bit. Because I feel like the way that it would curve, or it would need to curve, needs to be adjusted a little bit. Yeah, because that makes sense to me, just how that would go. But then, or actually, I might just do something like this. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Have I done the fingers back here? No, I haven't. That's gonna be a big part of this, so I'm gonna need to lock in on those. I don't want to go back to work next week. I've had about as long of a break as I can afford to take, but I still don't want to go back to work. But I'm guessing that's just always going to be the way. The good news is that I only have to do this for about a month before I don't have to go back to work for a little while. But even during then, it's not like it's going to be sunshine and rainbows, cookies and creams, etc. So, you know, it is very much one of those situations of taking the good with the bad. And as a matter of fact, I do think I need to redo that H. Okay, here's what we could do. This could be... So on the character sheet, there, like, you can see how there's this line here for the top of the singlet. I think that's going to be around this part, and then the H is going to start around here. Yeah, so if we take a look at it like this, it'll kind of wrap around the chest like so. Although I want to make it so that it doesn't create a tangent with the bicep here. God, I wasn't sure this year I wasn't actually sure if I was going to do art fight. I was going to be like, all right, the teams are going to be the clincher. If I like the teams, I'll get in there. And then they revealed that one of the teams was comedy. I'm like, fuck. All right. All right, you know what, art fight, well played. I'll play your game. I'll do it as I'll do your bidding. What the hell, for old time's sake. God, it is crazy to think that I've participated in basically every art fight since 2018. That's significantly longer than I've been streaming on. Actually, that's like 8 years. I've been streaming for about 4 and a little bit, so... That should give you some perspective about how serious I've been. Mr. Funny Man himself, that's right. Hey, Ryan. I hope you like the attack that I'm working on. How have you been, man? How's your week? They call me Mr. Chuckles. Not because I'm funny, but because I laugh at my own jokes quite a lot. It was meant to be derogatory, but now it's so jovial that I can't really let it go. Been good? Hey, that's good to hear. I'm glad. Glad you've had a good week. Did something good happen to you? What's been going on? How is Ryan doing? What have you been up to? Okay, I'm gonna need to, like, really maximize the curve on the lat here. Just maybe flipping it like this so it can follow the curve of my own hand more easily. Came back from Evo, but other than that, I've been working, but it hasn't been bad. I got the day off tomorrow. Hey, congrats! Oh, I hope you enjoy your day off. Yeah, how was Evo? I know you were probably chatting about it here and there, but I didn't really keep up with your exploits. I hope you enjoyed your time there. God, yeah. No, there's been a lot of different convention stuff that's been happening this past couple of weekends specifically. I think this weekend was Anime Expo. I've heard some mixed reviews about it, but still it's still like that same sense of camaraderie, that sense of like community that you see when you see those huge turnouts. I mean, I would loathe to call some of those people in my comrades, but same diff. Okay, and then that's gonna come in like this. Don't really say I don't really say much, but it was fun. I still need to take a picture of all the stuff I got there. Nice. Okay, so here's the crazy part. I feel like I'm missing a knuckle from each of these fingers, but that can't be, like, I know that I drew them this long in the thing, but that can't be right because oh, wait. Oh, I might be... Okay. I think I see where I went wrong here. So I thought that, I was like trying to picture the MMA gloves like it was covering up to the first knuckle, but in reality it'd probably just cover up to around halfway through. That makes sense. Maybe. I have a pair of MMA gloves. I had to buy them because back when I was taking karate lessons, they were like, yeah, no, you need some kind of glove. And no, wait, I think I bought those. No, I think I bought those before I started karate, but then I ended up buying a different pair later. Something like that. You know what? The sketch looks good, so I'm just gonna try and stick to the sketch for as much as I can. Oh yeah, an exciting development. Ever since I've started to, so I had to get a new pen for the tablet. You might recall last week, my tablet pen broke down in the middle of a stream, and it was a little bit stressful. But we pivoted to Balatro, and didn't have much going on that week either, so it all kind of worked out. But when I got the new pen for my tablet, it was very surreal because it was like factory setting pen, and I hadn't realized the extent to which I'd customized it because I immediately started trying out drawing with it, and immediately I was like, this is wrong. This is not right. And it turns out that was for a variety of reasons. One of which was that I had to check on... I don't know how I customized the old one. Maybe it was even like the seasoning from using it for like, what, 4 years now? Way more than 4 years. Wait, no. I got this tablet back when I was still in university. So yeah, it would have been more like 5 years, 6 years at least. Yeah, no, so this, maybe it is just like seasoning from using the same pen for 6 years. Like maybe the age and wear made it more sensitive or something. Who knows? That's not usually how that works, but I'm not a technology guy. It could very well be. But yeah, no, I had to basically install the newest version of the driver. I found out that the driver that I was using for my pen tablet was 6 years out of date. I don't know how that happened because the thinking about it logically, I would have installed that driver like, what, 2023, 2024? So I have no idea how it was 6 years out of date, but it somehow was. And some of the settings there actually did help quite a bit. I found out that Windows Ink fucks up the way that your pen gets registered, and you might actually see that a little bit. Like, okay, so I have my pen is making contact with the tablet right now, but it's not actually producing a line. Like, I need it has like this specific threshold for producing a line that I didn't really have to worry about with the old pen. I'm wondering how to rectify that. I haven't been able to find a setting on it that has done that. Actually, maybe. Hang on. So let me... Because listen, I have the tablet app, right? And in this digital game setting, there's game mode and mouse mode. Oh wait, here we go. Sensitivity. What if we just crank that up to 8? And then if I just check the pressure / sensitivity adjustment. Oh yeah, that's much better. All right, pause. Hang on. Let me... Okay. Okay, maybe a little bit softer than that. Here, okay. That might solve some of my problems. No, but see, hang on. Like, you see how it like doesn't make a line even though I'm dragging the cursor around? Like right now my pen is making contact with the tablet, but it's not producing a line. I think the old one didn't have that problem, and it's kind of messing me up. Hang on, I might have made it too sensitive. I might need to go back a little bit. Okay, let's set sensitivity to 7. Okay, interestingly, turning on game mode makes it just like, I think, a permanent... I need to keep it with mouse mode on, just because I think that helps a little bit with... Hang on. I need to keep it on mouse mode, because otherwise it becomes very difficult to move it around the way that I like. But I think this is pretty good. Okay. But yeah, the other thing that I figured out about the way that I like drawing now, or, you know, while I was fiddling around with the settings, I've come to realize that I use vector layers a lot for things like, hang on. I need to figure out the nail here, or at least the rough shape of it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I've been thinking about like recently when I was working on a commission for my buddy Preston, I was thinking about, you know, the way that vector layers were working for me and just the kind of habits that I developed around working with them. And I've come to the conclusion that while vector layers are very helpful still for making things like backgrounds and, you know, more technical work like making a logo, for example, I don't think they're for me anymore when it comes to illustration. I think I rather enjoy the kind of more freeform approach of... Okay, where does the nail go here? I need to like... Hang on, maybe I need to almost like manicure this sucker. Yeah, this feels right. But yeah, I've switched from using vector layers for the illustration to using them really only for backgrounds, I think, from now on. Or, you know, like I said, if I need like very precision work, if it's meant to look like a vector image, I'll use a vector layer, but other than that, I'll probably stick to just using raster layers for my line art from now on, because I've developed a pretty decent workflow to deal with things like you know, jagged edges and whatnot. you know, I've gotten more used to working with those. So I feel like now it's... Oh, that pinky looks kind of tiny now compared to the rest of the other fingers. Let's just increase its size a little bit. Just a skosh. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Perfect, yeah, okay, that's that hand done. I was doing something. Right, the rest of the image. I need to go pull up the reference again on my other window. But yeah, I've been thinking about that, and I think the reason that I've kind of come to this conclusion is because I was feeling like the vector layers, the way that I did them was like, okay, I'll make all the lines first, and then I'll use the vector eraser to clean them up. And that eventually started feeling a little bit inefficient. Like now I have more of an incentive to just get the line right the first time. And that's cut down a lot on, you know, post-processing. And it helps me to kind of do it well on the first shot, because now I also don't have to go back and be like, oh, was there like a little jagged bit here that I missed because I wasn't paying attention, or because it was 3 a.m. and I was still working on it. You know, it feels like it's easier to do quality control with it. And, you know, there's still going to be little bits and bobs like that, little nubbin there that I had to sand off, but it's much less pronounced and it's much easier to manage. Like, I was just able to erase that in less than 3 seconds. And if I was using a vector layer, I would have to be like, okay, this is attached to something. Should I make sure that it's got its own line to kind of cut off there first, etc. Now I can just kind of go for it. And it's much more free as a way of working. Don't get me wrong, I'll still sing the songs and praises of vector layers every chance that I get. But I think now they are maybe not so much for me for at least line art illustrations. Or line art that I'm doing for an illustration. Okay, and then over here. Nice. But yeah, like I keep bragging about having the week off, but because like the week off during this week I haven't really streamed at all. I've just been dicking around in my house. It's kind of the only thing that I have really to talk about. I played Dead Rising, which was a lot of fun. I also played Unbeatable, which was, how do I put this? Like, I feel like I should have had more fun with Dead Rising. And I do think that it's a good game. I think overall Unbeatable kind of has it won out by a large margin just because it did succeed where Dead Rising failed to just make me feel something. Or to make me endeared to the characters in any sort of capacity. Because I finished Dead Rising and I was about ready to punch off Frank West's dick, but you know, I finished Unbeatable. I'm like, damn, okay, I relate to these people. I relate to the plight of these characters and their circumstances. Okay, and then over here. Is that? Okay, no, I still need to finish the face. No, Unbeatable really is a good game. I think it's very much in that same sort of thing about... I would call it like almost not the same gameplay genre, but like the same spiritual genre as like Valhalla, in that, you know, I feel like it had more of a punch for me than Valhalla did, because I feel like for Valhalla I didn't really connect with the characters as much as I did for Unbeatable. But Valhalla's still a great game though. But I really did enjoy a lot of Unbeatable. I did end up getting the OST the other day as well, which is, you know, I don't know. I hope that I keep thinking about that game. I had a great time with it. God, I was waiting for that pen to arrive, the new pen to arrive though, and once it did, I started like, I went a little bit ham. I've been going kind of ham these past couple of days on the work that I've been doing for at least drawing. I feel like I got my mojo back immensely after I kind of figured out a little bit of the new pen settings. And that's kind of what you want to have happen. I feel like I should. I feel like it was very much a sort of cheap thrill, in that I feel like I got like the same kind of boost that you would get from like getting a new art supply, except that this one was just necessary to making another supply work first. But you know, like when you get like a new pen or a new notebook and you have like a temporary buff where you are just able to do a lot more with it just from the excitement of having a new tool available. I think like I almost had that, but in a sort of mitigated state because of the new pen. Yeah, no, I hope we have a long and fruitful partnership, me and this pen. Okay, maybe just a little bit of eyeliner here. I think I'm almost going to make it so that it looks a little bit more like the kind of area where the eye is falling. Yeah, this is another reason why I'm enjoying using a raster layer more for this kind of illustration work, is that it's a lot more easy to manage things like eyelashes with it. Okay. Okay, how's that look? Okay, looking good. I don't think that I missed anything on... Okay, maybe making this eye a tiny bit bigger. I feel like eyes are one of those things that I'm just never going to be able to like fully get right on the first shot. Like, I feel like it's very... Eyes, for me, I feel like I haven't figured out how I like drawing eyes. Like, I do like drawing them, but I feel like every single one of them is almost like a sort of custom job. I can't really, like, almost sort of, like, autopilot them like I do most features or limbs. Which maybe the problem with me is that I do need to, like, autopilot less. That's also the other thing that I was thinking about. I need to be more considerate about, like, the individual features of everyone that I'm drawing. I think maybe therein may lie a little bit more of improvement. But yeah, I've been thinking, I do think that this little break from digital art has forced me to kind of consider the things that I enjoy doing and whatnot, because I think, like, especially because I also had that time off to really, like, slow down and for the first time in a long time think about, like, what I want to do with my art and what I want to be able to accomplish with it, kind of where I'm at and what my technical level is. I don't know. It's been good. It's been good for me, I think. Okay, what I need to do here is I need to make the iris bigger, but I need to make the pupil smaller. Like that, perfect. So I think I might need to bring this knee out just a little bit. There we go. That's the wrong layer. Yeah, that's something that I'm gonna need to get used to as well, is figuring out where, or maybe like a method, some sort of internal system for figuring out, hey, is this the right layer or not? Because I think like it's happened a couple of times where I've been working on a given layer, and I'm like, yeah, this is the right layer, and then I'll see it interacting with a line weirdly, and I'll double check, and nope, I'm working on the line art layer. And that's not the end of the world by any means, but it is frustrating. Also, I can go a little bit more ham with the collarbones here. I think. Let me try something. Maybe a little bit shorter. Yeah, like that. Also, I should probably try to... hang on. Let's try and fill in everything like this. Perfect. Okay. Then, next up... Okay, I think that's pretty much all of the yellow parts, except for the gloves. I would need to do the gloves as well. Okay, and then... yeah, just clearing out the gaps here and here. And also filling in the orange on the back here. Okay, then next up, probably the hair would be a good one. I'm very odd because I really enjoy like the look of bleached hair like this. Like, I don't know, something about it just really appeals to me. I think it looks good. Oh, is her... oh, her irises are the same color as her jumpsuit. That's neat. Okay. Now, we're gonna have to do some crazy stuff with the shading here, because we're gonna need to, like, darken this knee up. I almost kind of want to give it a bluish tint. But that's gonna be a little bit of a big... that's gonna be a tough ask, I think. Hang on, select, color gamut, this one here. Okay, and then the shadows I think would fall sort of like this. Her big old massive boulder shoulders. Kind of casting this sort of ooh, I mean, wait, hang on. Okay. So I thought that... Okay, so I was gonna do it like top-down shadow, like sort of like this. Himona has a net total of 3, count them, 3 colors in her color scheme. It's very economical. I really admire that. Yeah, no, because like, yeah, you know, I feel like it's always... I never know whether to count a line art color. Like, if in a color, do you count like black and white as well, like in a color scheme? I feel like the answer is typically no, but like the 3 dominant colors are in fact this and the yellow from the jumpsuit, which is also the same yellow as the hair, the brown skin, and also the orange from the jumpsuit and the iris. And everything else is just building off of that. It's so economical. It's awesome. Right. Okay. I had a cool idea for how to do the shading on the actual illustration though. Hang on. Okay, I accidentally clicked on I accidentally used the eyedropper tool on the knee here, so I need to grab the darker color for the shaded skin, but here's where I'm at. I'm going to do like a sort of shadow from the side. And it's gonna be a little bit sort of like this for this section here. I am on the wrong layer. Okay, that's my comic making mindset. I like to be economical with colors. It's the right move. It is objectively the correct decision. Like, listen, the two things that I feel like are super important to bear in mind with comics is that one, you are going to need to make peace with the fact that you're going to draw the same thing like 50 million times, and also you have to make the designs such that you are going to have a blast even knowing that you're going to draw them 50 billion times. And if you can't have a blast drawing them 50 billion times, then you should at least make it so that it's not difficult to draw it 50 billion times. Or even if you do have a blast drawing it, make it so that it's easy to draw it 50 billion times. Be kind to yourself. That's something that I noticed the other day, right? So I was like, okay. So Jay's playthrough of Tomodachi Life had a character in a plaid skirt. I'm like, oh, that's actually a pretty cute look. I wonder if there's like any more illustrations with that sort of skirt. And I kept looking it up, and there isn't. And do you know why? It's because either one, it's a real pain in the ass to draw like rendered plaid, so nobody does it, or two, like it is in fact like a comic illustration, and nobody wants to draw plaid every panel, or like, you know, even if you do take the more economical, I'm going to use the phrase, the more economical route of using like a Clip Studio paint material for the plaid that you're going to be using in the character's design, that's still going to look off from certain angles. And hang on, this feels not right. Okay, yeah, that's more like it. But yeah, no, what I'm trying to say is that even if you... and even for sometimes, for some of the comics that I did see with like a plaid skirt pattern, it lasted for like maybe 2.5 pages before either they switched to a different costume or like they were just like, yeah, no, I'm not drawing that anymore. And then they stopped drawing the plaid. And I don't know, it was just really funny. But it made a lot of sense. You know what? From the bottom of my heart, I couldn't blame them for not wanting to draw or to use the material for Plaid every panel, because you know what? I've been there. I've been in a situation where I've had to like render the plot from different angles and etc. And I also thought that it was not worth it to use it. Okay. Okay, and then that's gonna kind of come over like this. So yeah, I think this finger would definitely be like this, and then just kind of a mix of this one over here. I feel like plaid is one of those words where if you say it enough, it just stops feeling like an actual word. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. I might not be. Like, I always thought that it was supposed to be played, but I think that I think that's not quite right. Or at least I feel like I've heard it be pronounced plod. Okay, and then that's gonna come in like this. No, that doesn't seem to work. Or maybe just for this part here. I'll need to do some experimentation on that. Okay, and then like this. Okay, nice, nice, nice. And we're just gonna add a couple of random shadows to the ear here. Come on, buddy. There we go. Okay. And May just doing a little bit of shading out here for the muscle on the shoulder and on the back of the tricep here. I don't know, I feel like that's not deep enough for the shadows that I'm trying to pull off. Yeah, like that feels more correct. I've been rocking heavy with this style recently, where I use a lot of blending for some of the shadows here and there. It's been very helpful for situations like this where there's like a lot of skin, because it blends itself very well to skin shading. Yeah, there's not a lot of hard edges on the human body for the most part. Okay, and then over here. And now I just need something to make... Okay, so it's going to be between these two. Just need a very light touch of a kind of intermediary color that I can blend out here. Okay, I need to blend it a little bit more on some of these, but that's looking good so far. But yeah, I still need to send out a couple of emails this week before the end of the night. Actually, come to think of it, like I was thinking about the different things that I wanted to do on this little bit of holidays that I gave to myself, and I've done like 90% of it. Like genuinely, I'm very proud of myself for like having the autonomy, for demonstrating the autonomy to do that. But there's still just like a couple more things that I wanted to do that have to be done, but they are very manageable and they are not going to take like even half an hour if I lock in. So I'm very happy with it. Like my main things for this holiday were one, go to the DMV to get a new ID, and two, to do a little bit of research into some immigration stuff. And both of those have been fairly easily handled on like day 2. You know, it's a good feeling. The one that I've been dragging my feet on is like the least consequential one of them, so that's also been... I don't know. I feel proud of myself. Like, yeah, I basically did nothing but laze around for a week, but you know, first of all, it's fine if that time was unproductive. It doesn't always need to be like a super productive time. It's a vacation. It's not supposed to be super productive. But I am genuinely proud of myself for what I've been able to get done. Even though some of it wasn't what I was hoping it would be, still pretty good stuff. Okay. That's looking a little bit too much on some of the mouth areas. So let's just render that down a little bit. Matter of fact, we could probably just do a little bit of a cheeky little nose bridge shading here. There we go. Okay, so that's the skin shading done, which is like one of the bigger parts. Now let's do the jumpsuit. Or actually, no, we're not fully done. We still need to render the abs and everything, which is very important. Maybe a little bit darker than that. Okay, so the human... Okay, so the ab would be kind of like this here, I think. Okay, so they kind of come in like this. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, nice. Let's do a couple of things. First, we need to... I'm going to add a little bit more here. Perfect. Something about that doesn't... Yeah, no, this isn't right. Let's get rid of these ones here. For now, let's focus on running out what we do know is right, which is these lines back here. Okay, yep. And what I'm thinking we're missing is just a tiny little bit more of this. And that way we have a little bit of extra purchase when we start blending out the little sections here. Yeah, those look like abs from a distance. That's pretty convincing. Unfortunately, I don't know what having abs is actually like, because I feel like that would probably help a lot with this process. But you know, if you have the rough idea of how selling goes, it's fine. Most of the time. Hey, the fan isn't picking up in the mic, right? Like, I have a fan cranked to like maybe the second setting around right now. Just want to make sure that it's not actually picking up any of the fan noises. Just stretching my wrists out a little bit. Okay, where were we? This is the same color. Hang on. Oh yeah, it would be. Okay, yeah. Please don't tell me that I've been shaking on the body layer this whole time. No, okay, we're fine. We're fine. Yeah, what else has been happening this week? Hang on, I had some notes written down. Just so I would have things to discuss during stream. Oh yeah. So here's a funny thing that happened to me. There's an annual convention out near where I live, right? And yeah, and this has actually been on my mind since everybody has been posting about like going to EVO and to Anime X and Anime Expo and whatever, right? And there is a con near where I live that takes place, you know, roughly in the in the fall, early winter, and I try to go there every year just because it's pretty much the only game in town. It is like one of the few local cons that I'm aware of that kind of serve my interests. So, you know, take what you can. I am on the Flat Slayer. God. Okay. Well, third time's the charm. Let's try this. But yeah, I try to attend the con whenever I can just because it's the only game in town. And last year they actually had a little VTuber concert that was just a bunch of pre-recorded songs that people sent over, but it was fine. Haragi Yu was there for some reason. That was very exciting. I remember genuinely like taking a picture and sending it to V and being like, "Yo, look who's at the con!" God. But yeah, no. Unfortunately, so this year, just when I was getting my whatchamacallit, my stuff renewed at the DMV, I was like, hey, actually, come to think of it, the tickets for that con usually go up on sale right about now. I should probably check on them before they're all, you know, just to make sure that I can get some. And let me tell you, I checked that on Monday, right? So this was June 29th. I looked at the website. They were sold out of those fuckers since June 19th. and they went on sale. That's on like I think the weekend of June 19th. So wait, that was okay. So June 19th. Yeah, no, June 19th was a Friday. They went on sale that weekend, and by the end of like June 20th, they had already run out of like weekend passes. And on the one hand, I was like, okay, damn, my fault. Let me just get a Friday one then. I was kind of sad about it, but on the other hand, it's like, okay, wait, that means that it's going to be at capacity. That's going to be a nightmare. Like, it was already pretty crowded the last couple of years. This year, it's going to be absolutely fucking swamped. And it's always a bit of a struggle, right? It's kind of interesting to me from an organizational perspective. Like, what do you even do from that at that point, right? Because like it's almost like suffering from success, because you can't just either I suppose you either have to move to a new venue, or you would have to like maybe like just tell the guests tough luck, just get faster at buying the tickets. I'm guessing that's probably what I'm gonna have to do. Just at least, I'm guessing they're not gonna move for at least another couple of years, because the venue that they're at is already fairly imposing. Isn't the right word. Expansive. But yeah, I'm very excited to see how it goes. Like I said, my money is on them just like saying, yeah, tough luck, just buy the ticket early. Because they're saying like, there are no official ticket resellers. There's no, if you buy a resold ticket, you are essentially putting money in a scalper's pocket. And that nobody likes that. But I'm excited to see how that goes. Recently, what I've been seeing happen, especially for a lot of conventions like I've seen this happen at least twice. So that's no longer like a one-off thing. That is like a thing that is becoming a trend. That a convention, if you want to go to a panel or to enjoy like a specific space for a fandom or whatever, right? And there's limited capacity, what they'll do is like they'll have like a requirement of evidence to get in. Like I think for was it Brown Dust or something? Or something like that. There was like, if you wanted to go to a kind of special area that the game developers had set up for the fans of the game, you had to present them your in-game like identification, like your character sheet in the game, and it had to be like above level 18. I think this is also true for like that the Lobotomy Corporation people, Project Moon. I think I also saw that like in the ticket sales site, they were also like, yeah, no, when you buy the ticket, you're going to need to input like which of our games you enjoy the most, and we'll give you like some easy lowball questions, underarm throw questions regarding our games. And if you can answer those correctly, we will sell you the ticket. And if you cannot, we will deny your sale. And while it is like impressive in some regards, I don't know how to put it. I can't help but feel like a bizarre sense of admiration for such measures. Like, it is crazy that they are implemented, but I do think it's like surprisingly a practical way of kind of limiting ticket space, whatever, to like people who actually enjoy the thing. But at the same time, it's like on the one hand, like the logistician in me sees the elegance of this approach, but on the other hand, the kind of the 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 leftism the leftism in me is like, hey, this feels a little messed up. Or actually, no, I don't know. Like, I feel like for spaces that's true, but not for like ticket sales. I think for ticket sales, like, I don't know how to put it. Like, it feels like a bizarre decision. I don't think it's the worst decision. I'm excited to see the kind of consequences it has. Hmm. Okay. Perfect. But yeah, I feel like recently I've come to realize that what I enjoy more about like the aspects of like building a community and such isn't really like the actual work that goes into it, which, you know, you have to love doing that or else you're not going to get it anywhere very far. But I'm not really interested in like the benefits of having a community so much as I am with the logistics and methods to create one. Because broadly speaking, you can make a community very easily. You just need to start gathering people for a common interest or with a united goal in mind. And you know, it's very much it is 100% a field of dreams situation, right? If you build it, they will come, and that is as much a how do I put this? That's as much a inspiration as it is a warning. Because look at me. I am, by all accounts, a very mid streamer. But I've still gotten like I've still been able to get affiliate. I've still been able to, you know, I renounced that, but whatever. Same diff. I've been able to get affiliate. I've gotten like 100+ followers. It's, you know, you keep putting stuff out there, and unless you're genuinely just completely hopeless at whatever you're doing, you will start to eventually kind of amass a community. And you know, it also helps that I was able to ingratiate myself to the almighty powerful V-Wings. That's also a big secret to how I've met like 90% of the people that I know. It's just I started hanging out with V, and then they just kind of fell into my life. Or, you know, I fell into their lives. I guess that's really a matter of perspective, huh? I don't know. I'd like to fall into someone's life. I think that sounds like very romantic. But yeah, that, like I said, if you building a community in theory is surprisingly easy because, like I said, you just need to kind of create a communal space for a specific cause, and you know, very consistently show up to that. Okay, it. Did I say I don't know if I said it was if it was easy or if it was simple. Building a community is simple in that the actual like textbook requirements to creating a community are not particularly difficult to accomplish, are not particularly complicated. It can be hard to build a community because, again, like I said, even if you do have a great plan, it's not going to work out for certain reasons sometimes, and that's fine. It doesn't always work out. That's just how it is. But as I was saying, I'm not so much interested in building a community as I am in the mechanics of how a community is created and operates. Like, I feel like that's a fascinating field of social science, of like the social studies. It's like, okay, like earlier today, right? I went to a little place in my town that has a zine library. And they actually had copies of a basically like I'm gonna call it like a Sears catalog of zines called Fact Sheet 5. And I swear to God I saw that it had a Wikipedia page. Yes, sir. Okay, let me pull this sucker up on the Jumbotron. So Fact Sheet 5 was a periodical mostly consisting of short reviews of zines, privately produced printed matter along with contact details of the editors and publishers. In the 80s and 90s, its comprehensive reviews, thousands in each issue, I can attest to this, made it the most important publication in its field. increasing distribution channels for self-publishers and heralding the wider spread of what would eventually be called fanzine or zine culture. A number of underground artists and writers read or submitted their work to Fact Sheet 5, including John Porcellino, Julie Duchette, and Jonathan Letton. Before the widespread adoption of web and email beginning around 1994, publications such as Fact Sheet 5 formed a vital directory for connecting like-minded people. It was the literary equivalent of phenomena such as international sound communication in the period of cassette culture. That sounds interesting. I'm going to read about that later. But yeah, that's literally what it was. And I kept reading about it and like seeing how many like small time publications were involved in it, how many people submitted to it. And you know, like it's so easy to like make something small. Okay, it's simple to make something small. Again, I need to start clarifying between when I say something is easy, as in it is not complex to do, or it is not complex in theory, and something is easy as in it can be done by an idiot, right? Because like I said, things can be simple, but they aren't always easy. Granted, most easy things tend to be simple, but that's usually because somebody's worked out the complex parts for you. In my experience. Okay, I need to clean up these nails. Sending Himona to the manicure salon just to get her cuticles aligned a little bit. I hear that that's actually very, very important for your nail health. Something about cuticles, at least. Okay, then for the jumpsuit, I think that's kind of like yellowish color. Or actually, I don't know, maybe a green. With that, that looks kind of promising, actually. Let's try this out. No. You know what? I went for the green, I tried it out, not really my thing. Okay, and then using this. I think this looks correct. No, that's not right. Okay, and then this is gonna kind of come over like this. Okay, nice. And that's actually, okay, yeah, that actually helps us align a little bit some of the, hang on. Some of the shadows for the spandex down here. Okay. And then maybe just a little bit of a deeper shadow for some of the corners here and there. But yeah, I should go back to the place where I looked at the zines earlier today at some point. I think they do workshops on Monday nights, so I'll need to tap into that. I don't know. I feel like if nothing else, once I've gotten things over and done with in September, I can try my luck at helping somebody else realize what they want to do. I don't really have a vision of my own for this sort of thing, so I think like my best bet is helping somebody else out with theirs. Until, I figure out what I want to do. Okay. I'm going to just add a little bit more of a drab color to the hand back here. I feel like I need to, at least for the spandex and parts like that, I want to add a little bit of light shine to some of these areas. So maybe like... in a layer underneath. Maybe like a little bit brighter? Not that bright. Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So maybe a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That's a good color. Maybe with lower opacity. No, I don't think that. I just don't like how that looks. Let's go back to the drawing board on that. No, but yeah, looking in the zine library, I was most specifically looking for zines about making scenes, which was a really nice match because there were a couple of those. But it was really funny because the main one that I found that had like the information that I wanted was from 2000 and I want to say 2008, which was by now almost 20 years ago, a little bit shy of 18 years ago, which is crazy to think about. No, no, yes. Yeah, a little bit shy of 18 years ago. Okay. I think we can move on to the hair from here. Okay. God, on Friday I went shopping for new music on Bandcamp, and I found some promising stuff, especially thanks to everyone's recommendations on the server. I did end up getting one of the albums from Terra Atlantica, which was a lot of fun to listen to. Somebody in the comments section called it cheese metal, which I think was really fun as a description. But yeah. And I feel like sometimes when I look around on Bandcamp, right, if I don't have anything in mind in particular, I will, one, take a look through like the main website's listing function to just like go through the different genres and see if I find anything that I like that's popular recently. And the other thing that I'll do is that I'll occasionally just like look up with the kind of same site functions, like, hey, what artists, what's going on with artists that have come out of Ecuador recently? And the fantastic part is that it's always some bullshit. Like, very rarely I will get like a Bandcamp upload of like a record from the 70s or 80s that's like named like Don Hidalgo y los Guadalupes or something like that, right? Where it's like very clearly some random unk from the 80s or 70s of Ecuador. Not even probably not even from Ecuador. Like the person who uploaded it is probably from Ecuador, but you know, the original record might be from Colombia or from another country. And you know, it's just like occasionally it's that, but 90% of the time it's just some bullshit or some like Plunderphonics EDM stuff, which is fine, but like I I don't know. It's just really funny. It's always a delight to go through Bandcamp. I also, one of the more recent ones that I found was a field recording of Midwestern American casinos, which was a lot of fun. I didn't end up buying the record, but I do think it's just great that it exists as an art piece, as a performance artist. No, performance artist. Ay. Okay, here's what let's do. Increase the size of this one. And yes, okay. I always find it to be such a fun little, almost sort of number crunching exercise to figure out how anime hairstyles would get shaded in my style, because I feel like mine kind of straddles the line between I want this to look fairly realistic and we're going like fully stylized on this, especially like when it comes to like textures and stuff. Like I feel like I try to, okay, so disclaimer, I'm not saying that my style is by any metric realistic, but I do try to like observe the real world counterparts of textures and objects to kind of create an approximation of that. And because of just like how my brain works, how I enjoy shading, I typically have to like imagine the thing in a 3D space a little bit while I'm shading it. And that's kind of like where the fun of shading anime hairstyle comes from. It's just from the fact that, okay, I know how this is supposed to look in a 2D plane. How would light fall on this? And the answer in most cases is rather messily. But those are also kind of fun to play around with. Okay, and then over here. Perfect. Now, something about this doesn't feel quite right. Let me try this. Yeah, that's better. I think from here on out, it's all just going to be highlight shading that's really going to do the rest of the heavy lifting. Yeah, there we go. I should probably do something about her eyes as well. Ooh, you know what would be a cute thing to do? I could add a little bit of the yellow from her color scheme to the eyes. And then a little bit of shading here and there. Okay. From here, I think the idea that I had for the background on this one was probably going to be, I think, probably like some kind of darker color. Could I get away with like sheer black? No, that's pure white. Oh yeah, I could do it almost like a sort of fighting game cut in. Yellow doesn't seem to be the... I think orange is a better color for the cut-in background. Yeah, almost sort of like a letterbox style sort of thing. Maybe bigger than that. Perfect. Or actually, I kind of liked it when it was narrower. Yeah, okay. And the other thing that I wanted to do... Okay, first of all, let's add a little bit of pizzazz to this one. So I think there might be like a speed line thing somewhere in here. So wait, hang on. Where's... If I just look up speed... Come on, there has to be... Motion? Line? Okay, this looks kind of promising. Or actually, wait, I know how to do this myself. I know how to do this. I need, what did I need? I needed the parallel line ruler. I needed a secondary color, and I needed... Actually, you know what I bet I could really do some cool stuff with? If I use, like, maybe... Okay, no. First, let's use the pen tool, or the brush tool. Yeah, just like that. Okay, not bad. And now we do two things. First, we use motion blur on a 90-degree angle, I believe. Yeah, 90, let's say 90 degrees. Wait, is that not... Now that is doing something. Why does that feel like it's not pointing exactly horizontally? Wait, so what if I do 180 degrees? Okay, yeah, that's probably more what I had in mind. Okay, now let's try playing around with the blending modes. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, the other thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to put all of these in one folder. Perfect. Okay, I wanted to merge the layers on that. And that way, I could use the blur tool on the arm and the leg and create a sort of field of depth effect. Now, I'm hoping this looks as cool as as I thought it would. Otherwise, I am cooked. Oh no, I'm not, because this already looks great, but I think it'll look really cool if I can really blur the hell out of this arm and foot. Yes, dude. Okay. Okay, and then make this a little bit smaller. And I think the only other thing we might need to do is I think we should use a tonal correction or gradient mapping. Maybe blue? Blue would be a good contrast, I think. And then just use a gradient erase to really... Do you see the... Yeah... I don't know, does this look better than just the... Yeah, no, I think I'm just gonna go with the unblurred image. Alright, that should do it for this one. Okay. We probably still have time to do one more. As long as it's a... I kind of had the concept for this one worked out already, but let's see what we can do for Leo. Let's do Leo next. I should also turn on my lamp. God, let me tell you, I have been... So, hang on. First, let me find the one that I needed to get for Leo. Okay, here we go. Copy image. So yeah, this is the character that I'll be attacking Leov with. It's one of his sonas called Sob. And I wanted to do something with the clown theme, so I wanted to do a little bit of cigar box juggling. Okay. Do I have my sketchbook nearby? No, I do not. Thanks for the beautiful Hamona. I'll do a revenge soon. Of course, man. I love drawing your characters. It's a lot of fun. Glad I had the opportunity to do it again. For you, brother, I will write any day. I'm glad you liked it. Right, cigar box juggling. Have you ever actually seen cigar box juggling? Let me see if I can pull up a video or something of it. Oh, this is a good one. So you might have seen it, you might have not recognized its name. So it is just juggling with these rectangular looking things. These are supposed to be based off of cigar boxes. And it can look pretty impressive. Let me actually pull up, hang on, tube.com. Cigar box juggling. Okay, so this is a guy whose video I watched to kind of get in the headspace for this. So peep this, right? It's basically doing tricks with the cigar boxes and just not letting them fall. And, you know, it is manipulating them. This one's one of my favorites, is like this trick where it's like, you know, it looks very strange. It's very repetitive, but it's also like, I don't know how else to put it. It's like, it's very satisfying to watch because they stay in pretty much the same formation for most of these. It's like those dances where you're controlling part of your body so only one part of it moves while the rest of it stays still, like doing the robot. Doing side flips for this is kind of crazy. This is what the Fushigi Balls wishes it was used for. Probably, because then you'd absolutely drop it on the ground and you'd have to pay another $20.99, not including shipping, for extra in certain states and provinces. I don't know how. I should look up how fall resistant on some Fushigi are, because I feel like Fushigi as a ordinary object, for lack of a better phrase, is like does look like it would shatter, but I feel like it would be more sturdy than I'm giving it credit for. I don't know. I don't have faith in the Fushigi as a product, just generally, because I do think that it is like very much infomercial merchantry and infomercial slop. I do imagine that at least a couple of people got big on Fushigi when they ordered it off of the infomercial. You know, like maybe they did end up realizing a lifelong passion for contact juggling. It's unlikely, but it could happen. Okay, we can close out of the web browser now. But yeah, very, very interesting little discipline. I don't know why it was a thing. I guess if you put somebody in a room with a random object long enough, you will eventually just start doing tricks with it. I feel like that's the best justification for disciplines like this existing. I don't know how they became part of the circus canon. Maybe it was just that it's one of those things that it looks fairly interesting and it was easy enough to teach. So, you know, that kind of made it in. I don't know. I feel like circus performing arts have to have some insane interesting secret histories. Like, you just know that the first dude to invent fire breathing was probably on some different shit, right? I kind of want to make this a chibi, but I don't know. Okay. Yeah, okay, let's just make this a regular proportioned one. For my part, I do think that both Fushigiing, contact juggling, and the cigar box juggling both have their strengths and weaknesses. Like I said, I think the interesting part of the cigar box juggling is that it looks like part of it is moving while part of it is staying still. Meanwhile, I feel like the Fushigi's strength is that it always looks like it's staying still even though it's moving. It is the illusion of stillness. I don't know if I should make him face up. So let's just do a rough idea of what this one's going to look like. So I'm picturing maybe on point even. Maybe staying on tiptoes. Not on point. On point is a different thing from standing on tiptoes. Radically, in the same way that a pond is slightly different from a lake, right? Like, a lake is much bigger than a pond. In that same way, on point is a little bit more advanced than you would think of for standing on tiptoes. Okay, and that's gonna kind of go like this. I kind of want to make this a little bit cunty, I wanna have some swagger to this one. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, maybe slightly smaller for the top of the head, and then... And I don't know if I want to make this full body either. I don't know, this one could just be like a more simplified style. Okay, wait, yeah, the pelvis would be rocking slightly the other direction than what I had originally thought. I don't know. I feel like in terms of like top 10 circus tricks, I just feel like nobody's ever gonna beat the kind of intensity that is involved in tightrope walking. I feel like tightrope walking has like that sort of insane real danger quotient to it that I think just is like the main attraction of circuses, is just watching people that are good enough at what they do that they probably won't die from doing the thing that they're about to show you. And if they do die, no refunds. I don't know. Is there like a okay? I don't think I've ever been to the Cirque du Soleil. I have like foundational memories of going to like a big circus performance with my family when I was very, very young when we were still in Ecuador. But I don't remember if it was specifically the Cirque du Soleil, if it was just like a fancy Ecuadorian, uh, a domestic circus troupe rather than an international one. It still cracks me up that the Cirque du Soleil's main function seems to be just generating enough money to send one guy into space. What was it? Guy Liberté? Was that his name? I remember it was extremely Quebecois. Yep, Guy Liberté, Quebecois billionaire, businessman, and poker player, co-founder of Cirque du Soleil. God, I feel like the Cirque du Soleil had to be. I have like I don't know why. I always feel like the Cirque du Soleil was some kind of insane money laundering scheme or something. I don't know why I think that. There's no good reason for me to think of it, but I just feel it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just feel like something has to be a scam, and like you don't like have necessarily the evidence to prove it, but you're like, yeah, this is pretty clearly a scam of some kind. Like I don't know, I don't know how you're making money off of it, and you know, it isn't really a scam because you are really just getting exactly what you signed up for, which is like a pretty amazing circus show. Not digital in nature, but you know, good enough. And it's like, okay, at that point, it's not really a scam then, because you're getting exactly what you're paying for. But I don't know, it feels like there has to be some kind of additional rub to it. Like, otherwise, I don't think it would be as successful as it is. Does that make sense? Like, am I talking crazy? I feel like the Cirque du Soleil had. It felt so much like a mafia laundering front when I first kind of fully comprehended what it was. But you know, it seems to be legitimate enough. So honestly, more power to the people who actually enjoy the clownery. Okay. Actually, I don't think they even have clowns. Come to think of it, that feels wrong. But actually, does the Cirque du Soleil have clowns? I feel like they don't. I feel like it's all like acrobatics merchantry and whatnot. I need to stop calling things merchantry because that's going to leak over into my day job. And once that happens, it's going to be kind of an incident. Or maybe it won't be. Maybe people will chuckle and you know, it'll all be okay. You know, I can't just assume that things will go poorly on first blush. But I'd prefer not to risk it. Okay, and then over here. Okay, and then the other hip is gonna be like over here. Okay, that's pretty good. I might just send this hip a little bit further back. This thigh, I mean. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, the purpose of the Cirque du Soleil seems to be as an institution to just make Guy La Liberté enough money to finally go into space. And I think it fulfilled that mission like when okay, when did he get to space? Guy La Liberté has definitely been to space, but when? Yeah, the Canadian Circus Company shows have since been seen by more than 90 million people worldwide. Before founding the company, he had busked, performing as an accordion player, stilled walker, and fire eater. Okay, yeah, yada yada yada. Cirque du Soleil, poker career, spaceflight. In September 2009, La Liberté became the first Canadian space tourist. Right. But yeah, no. So really, the Cirque du Soleil as an organization has fulfilled its core function, which again was to just get sufficiently filthy rich that they could send Guy La Liberté to space. And now I guess maybe they're just like Ronin clowns. I don't know. Again, I don't think they actually have clowns. They have people dressed like jesters, but that's not the same thing as a clown, you know? You can dress like a jester, but you're not a clown. Conversely, you can dress like a clown but still be a jester. I don't know. I feel like I feel like I lack critical knowledge of clown taxonomy. Like I feel like if I go to the clown version of iNaturalist, I would get the wrong ID every single time. In 1997, La Liberté was appointed the Knight of the National Order of Quebec. What does that actually like? What does that meaningfully accomplish? What does that do exactly for you? Getting the National Order of Quebec. I don't know. I feel like knighthood is one of those things where it was probably pretty awesome back in the day, but like now it's probably more trouble than it's worth, I imagine. Like do knights have special privileges nowadays? I feel like those would have been abolished by now. Like I feel like those would have definitely like or at least suffered in quality, you know? Like maybe time was that like knights could skip ahead on the grocery queue, but you know, now because of because of the overwhelming consensus that knights and the feudal system are bullshit. You know, now you'd be lucky if it let you like get a discount on certain days of the year. I don't know. I just feel like being a knight's just not what it's all cracked up to be. Okay, so we're gonna kind of go with a poofy sleeve here. Maybe a little bit further up. Okay. Yeah, just like a nice solid chunk here for the I don't know how to call it, like that specific frill that jesters and whatever have. The ruffle. I feel like that's going to be the hardest part of this draw. But yeah, I don't know. Do Harlequins and such still produce the same? I guess it would vary from person to person. I was gonna say, like, do Harlequins and Jesters like produce the same kind of fear response in people that like clowns would? I feel like Jesters are more terrifying than clowns because I feel like a clown, if you can get past the makeup, you're fine. But if you like, Jesters like can't turn it off. Like that's just a normal person acting like a fool, and like that's like scarier to me as a just from a cognitive standpoint. Like I feel like maybe it's because of the sad clown archetype that maybe I can understand the melancholy in a clown's life, right? Like maybe I have more sympathy towards them because of that. But on the other hand, jesters are like unrepentant in their whimsy, and because of this, they produce a sort of, how do I put it? Like jesters feel like they're workaholics in the sense that they don't have a personality away from their work. Like, and I just feel like that would be very difficult to deal with, especially if they're like super on during their working hours. Because I don't imagine that there's such a thing as like a dry jester, right? Like I feel like jesters have to be like zany and you know gaga all the time. Would you rather have to fight 100 different jesters or one clown 100 times? I feel like my win loss ratio would be better with the jesters. Mostly because I feel like if you can fight different guys, there's like a random chance each time that you'll know what you're doing wrong after each fight. But you know you'll be facing a fresh jester each time, so you know you'll have a random chance that maybe they're not as good as the other guys, or you know maybe um they don't understand your fighting style just yet. You could kind of like switch up on them a little bit, right? You could deceive them that way. On the other hand, if you're fighting one clown over 100 times over the course of like maybe 3 to 4 months, I feel like by the end of that time, jesters would fight to kill, clowns are there to mess around. That's true. I hadn't considered that. I do feel like jesters do have like that sort of thing where like if a blade is drawn, it has to taste blood. So I do think that maybe the jesters would fight to the death. You're right. You're so right, actually. I hadn't considered that. Okay, in that case, I would definitely stick to the clown because I feel like even though by the end of the 100 matches, I will have like built a rapport with the clown, and maybe I would feel like I would have to marry the clown just because I feel like nobody else would understand me on the same level. I would at least be alive to tell the tale. You know, if it being 100 matches pretty much guarantees the clown can't kill me, unless you know we're taking in like supernatural bullshit into account. In which case, you know, in that case, all bets are off. You can't really build a hypothesis off of would you rather do this or that because you know there's no real consequences. So yeah, I think that regardless of you know, I think even without caring for your win-loss ratio, or even with caring for your win-loss ratio, the clown is still probably the smart move. Oh, I'm sure even with that kind of logic, there's still people who would appreciate the gestures. Gestures. Okay. Jesters would also have a more agility than Clown. Clown clothes really slow them down. Now, see, I feel like that's true. You know what? I do think that on average, Jesters would be stronger than Clowns. Because, like, Jesters have, Clowns are a maybe on the acrobatics. Jesters are acrobatics or it's off with your head, right? So I think, like, Jesters would definitely have much more agility than Clowns, just as a baseline, really. Like, I think if you got into a fight with a Jester, they'd be fighting like they were, like... I don't know, what's a really agile character? Like, if you were fighting a Jester, they would be doing, like, Giovanna Guilty Gear combos on you. And you would want to die. Conversely, if you fought a Clown, like... they would be fighting more like Q from Street Fighter 3. Like, they would have some more predictability to their movements. I think. Okay. Jesters didn't have a lot to work with. Physical acts would have been a key factor in entertaining their lord. Right. Clowns have many tools but don't need much else. Okay. I was always, you know what? I wasn't really considering this, whether it would be like a fight to the death with swords or whatever. I do think that having like appropriate tools would probably be a factor as well, because I feel like you said, clowns have more tools than Jesters did. They have more props. Their comedy is more... It has a wider kind of range, but Jesters were very much just like, hee, I'm gonna tell a joke now. So that's something else to consider. The Clown could probably do some fire-eating shit at you and like blow paraffin in your face and set you on fire. I don't think a Jester could do that. I think they would try to set you on fire with their mind, but like not... they wouldn't have the tools per se. So really the question is, would you rather fight a Shaolin monk dressed in Jester's motley, or would you rather fight a guy who really doesn't want to be here, but that has access to clubs, swords, and also fire breathing? I don't know. I feel like putting it that way, the Jester's almost back on the table because I don't want to get set on fire. Or clubbed. Like, I don't know, depending on the Jester's bloodlust, I might be okay if I just played dead. You can't play dead when you're on fire. Okay, and then another cigar box here. Okay, bringing this back around to the supposition, right? Because I said, would you rather fight one clown 100 times or 100 Jesters once? Like in a sequence. I don't think a lot of clowns do fire breathing. Okay, that's true. So I guess the question is, like, would you know the clown that you're fighting, right? I feel like if you like, let's say that you were able to like go to the clown's circus act, right? In this kind of bizarre tournament of power type scenario that we're cooking here, right? If you were if you were able to like get reconnaissance, do some intelligence gathering on the clown opponent beforehand, and like you were like, okay, I've been to this guy's show. He does juggling with balls, not clubs, and I didn't see any fire breathing. Right? I think then you've kind of got a pretty good chance. Your odds are good. But like if you go to the show and the clown's like doing backflips off a motorcycle and like doing fire breathing and shit, I think then, the gestures start to look a little bit more appealing as opponents. I guess the psychological factor is also a thing though, because like if you have really bad coulrophobia, it's gonna be tough on you to play around with the clowns, get down with the clowns, right? Conversely, I think like your coulrophobia would probably be lessened if you were fighting the jesters, in which case you might be able to just lock in and, try to survive the onslaught. Because I mean, I don't know, maybe it'd almost be like a form of exposure therapy then. If you've got a really bad fear of clowns and you have to fight the same clown 100 times over, I feel like by the end of it, you're going to be sore at the guy, sure, but you'll also be much less scared of clowns. At least I would hope you were. I guess it depends on like the extent of the phobia, because I do think that past a certain point, trying to use exposure therapy on a phobia or on something you're like psychologically averse to is kind of pointless, because like the best remedy is to just not get into contact with it. But I don't know where the threshold is for that on clowns. Like, I've never met of somebody who has a paralyzing fear of clowns. I think I'll still take the clown, because realistically would form some kind of rival-like bond, and by the end we would question why we even fought in the first place and go chill after. The jesters would just get pissed that I'm beating all of them down so much. Yeah, but, okay. That's what I was saying earlier. I do think that, like, by the end of the 100 matches, you and the clown would maybe have to get married a little bit. If not romantically, then, your souls now share a very similar gap in them. I hadn't considered that the jesters could seek revenge after the fights. I think that the jesters are just a no-win scenario. Like, if the jesters could just, like, find you on LinkedIn after you've beaten the hell out of them, if you can even touch them in the first place, because, again, you're basically fighting a Shaolin monk that knows how to tell jokes. Actually, that's not fair to Shaolin monks. They're probably very funny people. Can it be a girl clown? There's a risk in that, because then it's like, okay, but then you're fighting a woman 100 times, and that's not good optics, I feel. Like, if you're okay with the optics of fighting the same woman 100 times, then sure, go for it. And like the marriage thing is an exaggeration. You don't have to get married. I'm just saying that realistically, you would want to get married a little bit. If she consents to a fight, it's fine. I guess that's true, actually. You know what? Maybe I wasn't thinking wokely enough. The optics of it would still not be great, but I do think it's fine if both parties are like, yeah, no, we're down to fight. You know what? I respect it. I feel like this has been such a rich dilemma to kind of dig into. I began it as like a sort of throwaway thing, but I think like the more that I got into it, the more kind of rich this tapestry became. Like in my mind, I've almost kind of come to know the clown. And I've kind of come to see the shape of the jesters as well. It reminds me a little bit of the Abuse Goblin, if you've seen that. I don't know. I think clowns are cute. I think everybody just loves a fun person. No wonder Socrates and the like spent their whole lives just philosophizing. I do think that whatever I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall of like a ancient Greek era power scaling debate. Like, do you know what I mean? I feel like the ancient Greeks would have had power scaling down to like a fine art. Or if they didn't, I think if I introduced them to the concept, they would absolutely adore it. I think the ancient Greeks would have loved power scaling. Okay. Okay, if we flip this, how's that looking? Hmm. I kind of want to... Okay, I'm going to use the liquefy tool to bend him a little bit this way. I do think... Okay, we do need to... Dude, Poseidon would kick Zeus's ass, man. Bro, no way. Why would you say that? It's totally true. Check out this written tale of Poseidon knocking Zeus's teeth in. That's definitely official canon. I didn't just write myself last night. That's the thing. It would have been so hard to like do like copyright protection. Okay, that's maybe not the right word, but like to find like canon feats for your goat back in the ancient Greek era, because you pretty much would have just had to write it yourself. And in that case, it's basically a free-for-all knockout fight. At that point, it really is just agenda posting or nothing. Okay. God. What if Dante Alighieri wrote all that just to win a power scaling debate? Like, that's absolutely not why the Divine Comedy was written, but like, you know, what if? New Homer just dropped, it's called the Odyssey. What implications does this have for the meta? People, some wise ass just starts saying like, you know, just starts like repping and glazing Odysseus heart style because of the fact that like he's like, okay, but you know, he nicknamed himself Nobody, and you know what they say, nobody's better than Hercules, nobody's better than yada yada yada, and everybody else will be like thinking, oh my god, how do we kill this guy? Odysseus stance would have been almost like the Akainu fans of the ancient Greek era. God, I cannot wait for somebody to push Akainu's shit in in One Piece. The day is coming. I can feel it in the wind, but I don't know who's gonna do the honors. I hope it's Kobe a little bit. I feel like there would be some kind of poetry to it for Kobe to be the one who literally beats the crap out of the most fucked up parts of the Marines, or one of the most emblematic evil jackasses of the Marines. Okay. Okay, this eye is going to come a little bit closer this way. Maybe a little bit bigger. This one's going to come in a little bit this way. Okay. This is pretty good. Okay, I'm going to see if maybe it's going to look better if I blow it up to be like a half body. It's looking pretty good. It's looking fairly good as a half body. Maybe just a little bit less here and a little bit more here. Yeah, just so that the thumb isn't cut off. Yeah, okay. I don't know, maybe it is better kind of in this position, because I think then it doesn't create the issue where it looks like it's flat. Actually, wait, maybe I could just turn it upside down and make it look more interesting that way. Yeah, I think that looks good. I'm gonna take a quick sip of water. Okay, let's wrap up the line art on this one, and then we'll probably end it for today. I do think I'm probably going to end up abolishing the co-working streams. Just because I've kind of... I'm thinking about this in the schedule for next week, right? I think I probably am going to end up abolishing the co-working streams after everything has been said and done. It's not that I've particularly come to resent them. I just feel like I can probably find better uses of my time to accomplish my goals than to glue myself to the monitor for 2 hours. It has been fascinating, though. I've enjoyed the co-working streams as a sort of experiment for what I can do. I'll probably be dropping a Google Doc of the little background. I don't know. Okay, Ryan, you've tuned into a couple of the co-working streams, right? Have you seen the little tooltips that I put up sometimes that have some kind of bizarre anonymous thing written up on there? Okay, I quote unquote anonymous thing that's just some kind of silly message. Because I thought they were pretty funny. I think they're like maybe hit or miss, but I would like to at least share them in a collated format. God, now I was thinking. Okay, so I was thinking about maybe editing the whole little clown conversation sidebar thing, and I was thinking about like what the thumbnail might be. And I'm probably not going to end up doing this. I don't think I think it was a fun conversation to have, but I don't think it's like worth the effort to edit it completely. But I was trying to think of like what the thumbnail for it would look like. And I do think that it would essentially just look like one clown girl who is just like hyped to beat the crap out of you versus like maybe 100 jesters like in that one panel from Invincible where it's like Thrag with his million children. Okay. And that's just gonna kind of come in like this. Hey. I don't know. I don't know about... I feel like these frills are going to be the death of me. I feel like this one is the closest one that I have to it. So maybe if I start from here, the rest of it will make sense. There is probably some bullshit I could do with like the primitives or whatever to figure out the way that this would work, but I cannot be asked to do that right now, so... Okay, and then that's gonna come up like this. Okay, that's gonna come in like this. Yeah, I think that looks good. Okay, moving on. Okay, and then this is gonna kind of come in on the hand like this. Perfect. Okay, and then that's gonna come up like this. Nice. I don't know, I feel like ruffles are I feel like I leveled up a little bit my ruffle game while I was drawing the comms for Preston, but I feel like I also still have a long ways to go. I think we might need to use the liquefy tool a little bit to kind of just push this in a tiny bit. And then that's gonna go in like that. Yeah, I think that's functional. That seems appropriate. Okay. There we go. This looks very elegant, I think. Recently, I've become more interested in drawing like very slender and delicate-looking fingers. I like drawing sturdy-looking hands, so I think maybe it's kind of nice to step out of my comfort zone and try drawing like more gentle-looking ones. or more dexterous looking ones. I think pretty much every kind of body configuration has its appeal for drawing, for as long as you have like a good reference or like some good variety. I think variety is very much the key here. Like, I do think that if you end up drawing the same kind of body type and structure of, like, detail, you'll get good at it, but it'll also kind of make you miserable after some time. Well, I guess that also depends on on how you feel about the body type. If it's your jam, then I don't think it's going to be easy to get tired of it. Although I do imagine you'll at one point want to switch. Just like how humans can't live on bread alone, it's very difficult to just draw one thing over and over forever and expect to be satisfied with the results. Difficult, but not impossible, mind. Ooh, This looks a little bit... Whew. Alright, let's try this. Hmm. And then... Yeah, okay, that's looking good. I said we'd kind of end once I got the line art for this done, but I think maybe now would be a good time to stop. I don't know, I think we've gotten some good progress in for this one. And you know, we did finish at least one attack, so it was worth our time, I think. It came out really well too, so I'm happy with it. Alright. Is anybody streaming right now? Is it like... Who would I raid? If anyone. Oh, no, yeah, no. I'm just gonna close out. There's really nobody on, except maybe the chickens, but I don't think that's really exciting. Alright then. Take care, everyone. Have a good night, and I will be back next week, probably around the same time. Talk to you later. Bye.